Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spin and Prog with me, Tara. And today we have another episode of In the Hot Seat. So I have another wonderful subscriber joining me today. I'm very excited about this one. I know him as Uncle Chaz. He pops up in the comments of every video I do, and he's probably one of the most supporting and encouraging subscribers ever. Like, he's fantastic. So, Chaz, it's an honor to have you on the channel for a chat with me today. So say hello and tell us a bit about yourself and your journey with Prog and all that stuff.
Well, that's so sweet of you to say, Tara. That's lovely to say. Yeah, my name, well, you guys can call me Uncle Chaz, and I live down here in outside of Baltimore, Maryland, on the Chesapeake Bay, and I've been listening to prog since before there was prog, when it was just rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't really any differentiation or genreification of music other than country, rock, pop, or whatever. You
Yeah.
know, if you were in the rock genre, you were in the rock genre, so that's what I was always listening to since I've been about 12 or 13. So, the prog bands that evolved out of all that, I've kept steady with following, so just kind of, I listen to a lot of different things, not pretty much everything other than country or rap or anything like that,
Yeah.
but prog has always been my go-to,
Yeah.
So
Excellent. And Uncle Chaz here asked me if I would do a topic on the top 10 King Crimson songs. And I said, oh, Jesus, that's going to be very tough, but I am totally up for the challenge. And I was doing up my list during the week, and oh my God. I mean, pulling 10 songs from such a great band is just so difficult. And I just had to kind of, look at it from what do I listen to the most and pull those tunes. So I'll have a top 10, Uncle Chaz has a top 10, and we'll probably pick different stuff from each other and balance each other out, I hope, anyway. So it'll be a pretty diverse list. But Chaz, I want to ask you, so you're from Maryland in the US.
yeah.
What was it like? How would you have come across King Crimson over in the US? Because I know, like in England, it would have been a lot easier to discover them. But I'm intrigued to know how you came across them.
Well, I'm fortunate that the area where I live or where I grew up, which is a little bit north of here where I am right now, but we were able to get radio from both Baltimore and from Philadelphia. And Philadelphia has historically been a really prog-oriented town. There used to be a station in Philly called WYSP, and there was a disc jockey named Ed Shockey. I can't. It's not spelled like Shockey. It's some kind of weird ass spelling, which I can't remember how to spell. But he was responsible for promoting and bringing a lot of the prog acts in to the Philadelphia area to concerts and whatnot, and he would play them on the radio in the evenings.
Wow.
And that's how I first heard King Crimson, was back in the very early 70s. And it's hard to imagine for somebody coming from a different world like you are from back then, but sometimes disc jockeys would play songs and you wouldn't catch what the title was, and they would say what the title was, and you were like, well, what the hell was that? Who sang it? Who does? Where can I buy it? And it would go on until maybe you'd hear it again a couple months later or something, and then you would know what it was and how to seek it out. There was no internet to tell you there.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
Yeah. But that's a cool story, though. It blows my mind to think of something like King Crimson being played on the radio, to be honest.
Well, really, the only thing that was ever played on the radio back then, and still to this day, is In the Court of the Crimson King, and that would be, on the prog, well, now what they call classic radio, classic rock radio here in the I don't really listen to radio much, very much. Every once in a while I'll hear something, but You know, back then that was the way that you were going to be fed music. You know,
Hmm.
purchase it blindly or hear it on the radio. You know,
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome. I love that. That's
or
so cool.
some friend would turn you on to something. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
All right, cool. Okay, so Chaz, I'm gonna let you go first. So if you want to start at your number 10 song.
Okay, well, here we go. Starting with my number 10, it's going to be a song called One Time, off of the Rack album.
Yes.
When King Crimson was playing as a double duo, it's, and I don't really know how to classify it, it's kind of a hypnotic ballad, you
Yeah.
know? It's, you know, if you can use ballad and King Crimson in the same phrase. But I love the melodiness of the song, and I'm not really a mellow-oriented kind of guy, but I love the melodiness of it. I love the lyrics that, you know, to me, it's about like confusion and detachment.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what anybody else thinks about that, but, you know, and another thing that really stands out in this song are the percussive clock ticks that when they're in the middle of the verses with a tick, 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 you know, with the tones, or actually I guess with the rim of the snare making the clock ticks. And it's absolutely cool, you know, that's just a cool little thing. And back in the old days when I was like a teenager, if this kind of a song would have been out, it would have been kind of classified as makeout music, you know, where you could get frisky without being annoyed by a whole lot of screaming and guitar solos that you really didn't want to be paying attention to, but we're still
Yeah.
having to think still, you know, if you know what I mean. That's a long time ago, but I still remember, you know. So. But that's it. That's it for me on my number 10. One Time off of the track out.
Awesome pick. That's a really good tune. And it was something with Adrian Belew. He was able to go into these kind of melodic, hypnotic kind of tunes a lot when you think back on the stuff he did with the band. But more on that in a while. So my number 10 is from the 80s era of King Crimson, and it is from Three of a Perfect Pair. I absolutely love the song Sleepless because, you know, I'm a person that I could never get along with that 80s sound. And King Crimson were one of the few bands that just did it in a way that pulled me in. And when I heard Sleepless, I was like, this is awesome. I love that bass line in it. I love how kind of primal Adrian Belew gets in it. The weird guitar sounds. The music video is hilarious. Robert Fripp just like turning and looking at the camera. Yeah, I really, really like this song and I play it a lot. So I was like, I'm going to have to include this one. So that is my number 10 is Sleepless.
It's kind of almost like dance music, but cool dance music, you know?
Yeah.
That echo effect on the bass, and he's using those funk finger things with that bass, that slamming bass riff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever saw that. It's like, have you ever seen those finger extensions, Tony Levin?
Yeah, that he wears. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So cool. Yeah, no, that's my number 10. So on to your number 9.
Okay, my number 9 is going to come off the Construction Light album. And it's a song called The World Is My Oyster Soup Kitchen Floor Wax Museum.
Awesome.
Now, this is kind of an oddball song, you know, it's nonsense lyrics over brutal music. It's really pretty much what it is.
That's what King Crimson do best.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And there's incredible Adrian Belew guitar work in this thing. But besides that piano thing at the end that Fripp does through that effect, you know, with he's playing the guitar, but it's that, I guess it's the some sort of synthesizer that's making the piano sounds. That's old-timey King Crimson when they had Keith Tippett in the band.
Yeah.
And he was all that maniac playing that he did, you know. So it kind of reminded me of that. I like it. it's just like, it's almost like it's purposely sloppy, you know.
Yeah.
I like too, you know, there's something endearing about it that just, you know, I can't really describe it any better than that. It's just, it's my number.
See, it would take a prog fan to say a song like that is endearing.
Well, I mean, just think, you know, what kind of a human being would think that's a great song, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Here we are, like, you know. My next pick is something quite kind of horrific like that as well. It's from Track. All I have here is the Track box. Dinosaur. So
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, my dad played Track an awful lot. And when I heard Dinosaur, God, I was so young and I was just pulled in by it. You know, I thought it was a really cool song. Being a child, I was like, yay, dinosaurs. But when I got older, I'd go back and listen to it and hear this crazy instrumentation. Really heavy music, actually. Because, you know, you think of King Crimson and you think of 21st Century Schizoid Man. But then you hear the stuff like Track and it's just, wow. Like, they were able to go in any direction, really. And yeah, Dinosaur is just one of my favorites. I love the lyrics in it, like somebody is digging my bones. Another real primal kind of thing from Adrian Belew. And yeah, it's just a really cool song.
I absolutely agree with you. That, you know, like I said earlier, it's hard to go wrong on this kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
All the songs that we're going to pick are going to be decent songs, you know? So,
yeah.
Great. That's a great one. Great one.
Your turn.
Okay, so number 8 is going to be off The Power to Believe, which is their final studio album. And it's called Happy with What You Have to Be Happy With.
A great tune.
It is a great tune. And I heard they put out an EP first. I have both The Power to Believe and the Happy to Be Happy with What You Have to Be Happy With on the EP. And it's just a little bit different. The version that's on the EP has an extra chorus in it, and it just makes the song like about a minute longer, but it's still, you know, basically the same thing. And it's about the frustration of songwriting and trying to come up with bits and pieces for songs. And I used to play a little music back in the day, so I can certainly relate to what he's talking about. And it's just a very, very, very cool song.
Yeah.
That's my number 8, and that's it.
That's a great choice. You're really pulling out the deep cuts here. Fantastic. I knew we'd kind of balance each other out, so this is great. Yeah, great choice. Fantastic one. My next one now is the first track from this album, The Great Deceiver.
Yes.
Absolutely nuts tune. Insane. And the lyrics in this one are just crazy. Really, really great album. It was hard actually to choose one after that. I was trying to kind of space my choices out over different albums. And I was looking at this one going, God, like, which one do I pick? It's such a great album. But yeah, I went for The Great Deceiver because it's right up my alley. Like, it's absolutely crazy. It's all over the place. It's very cartoon-like to me. And I think it's a really fun tune, actually. So that is my choice. So what are we on now? We're on number 7. So what's your number 7?
Yep, we're on number 7. And my number 7 pick is going to come off the second album called In the Wake of Poseidon. And it's a song called Cat Food.
Yes. I love that one.
I do too. And the insane piano work from Keith Tippett is just the seller there. You know, it's like an insane person playing that piano. The vocals kind of, you know, the Greg Lake vocal is kind of reminiscent of the last album, the 21st Century Schizoid Man, with the shouty, almost talking kind of thing he does, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I like that too. But there's that was issued as a single apparently, and I didn't know this until later on. But the single, you know, back in the day, they were 45 records, the ones with the big holes in the middle, which you guys probably some of there up at Cody's store there, I'm sure. The single of that song, Cat Food, had a song called Groove. And I just want to give a shout out real quick to that because it's not really part of this, but there's another King Crimson Collectors Club put out a live album called Ladies of the Road. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it was the Islands era of the band doing live versions of their early music. And they do a stomping version of that Groon on there, which is the backing track of the 45 for Cat Food. So just wanted to give that a little shout out. It's not really one of my picks, but it's just a cool little sidebar. They didn't issue that song on any album, so it was just on the back of that Cat Food 45, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But Cat Food is my number 7 pick.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out, actually. I had no idea about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, they talk down about that Island there of the band sometimes, and that Rick had to teach Boz Burrell how to play bass and all this stuff, and I don't know how much I'm buying it, because if you listen to some of this live stuff, man, that 4-piece band, they had their act together,
Yeah. I think the Islands era was still brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Okay, so I'm going back to 1970 with my next pick, and this one, Circus, and I am going for the gigantic epic off of this, Lizard. So this is 23 minutes long, 23 and a half, and it just goes all over the place. So I love when an epic is like a roller coaster. It's up and it's down and it's in the middle. Of course, it's pretty well known in the prog community for having John Anderson on it, which is a little bonus. But it's just a really, really awesome song. And it's one of those epics that just enthralls you straight away because it's really odd and you're kind of piques your curiosity, pulls you in, and you're just hooked. And I absolutely love it. I think this album is overlooked, to be honest with you. I don't see enough people talking about it at all, and it's really proggy. Like, it's so cool. So that is my number 7, Lizard.
They added bits and pieces of that album into their final touring years, which I saw quite a few of those shows in 2014, 17, and 19. They added quite a bit of Lizard into the set list, which was kind of nice to hear,
Good.
I didn't used to have anything good to say about it, but he sure played a hell of a lot of it,
Yeah.
in concert just recent, well, not too far back. So, Okay, so I'm on number 6 now.
Yep.
That's going to come off of 3 of a Perfect Pair, and it's going to be the title track, 3 of a Perfect Pair.
Awesome.
It's a great song. It sounds almost like a slowed down version, frame by frame, with an odd melody slapped on top of it. And they're playing it in 6/8. And it's a bizarre song. But the vocals, once again, with Adrian Belew, they're like hypnotic vocals, And I don't know if you've ever seen him play this live as an acoustic solo piece. It's just incredible. The song works. I don't care if you're doing it as King Crimson. I don't care if you're doing it as a solo acoustic piece. It works. It's a cool song. And Bill Bruford's drumming on this thing is just off the charts.
Yeah.
Everybody's so mesmerized by Belew. It's like you got to give Bill Bruford a shout out on this one too, because he's doing some fantastic things on those drums.
Yeah.
Number.
Great choice again. Great choice. That's a beautiful song, actually. I love that one. Nice one. All right, so my next one is a pretty standard pick, but I had to pull it out. 21st Century Schizoid Man. To come out in 1969 and start an album off like this was just one of the most incredible moves a band ever made. Now, there's a lot of debate around this. Was this like the first kind of prog album? I always disagree and say, Procol Harum and the Moody Blues were doing it beforehand and everything, but this is probably the first really solid prog kind of album that came out, in my opinion. Don't drag me in the comments now for saying that, but it's true. It's very solid. They knew what they were doing with this, and it's stood the test of time as well, which is, one of the most key factors in telling what was the first kind of proggy thing. But yeah, the title track off this, incredible, so awesome. It opens up the album, there's this kind of quiet noise, and then it just goes din, 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 din. Absolutely crazy cool. I love this so much. And of course the album cover is incredible. So that is my number 6, and it feels even so horrible saying that's my number 6, because again, this band just had so much good stuff.
Yeah, well, once again though, with trying to figure out who was prog first, like I was saying earlier, it was all just rock. Nobody was genrefied back then.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different ball of wax. There was, music you liked, music that you didn't, and King Crimson certainly music that we like, so that's the thing. All right, so we're getting down to the halfway point here. Number 5 is going to come off of Red, and it's a song called Fallen Angel.
Yes, awesome.
Fallen Angel, you just listen to John Wetton sing. I mean, it's just absolutely just beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful song that goes from beautiful to heavy, and then it's like everything in between as well. And you've got the guest players, Mark Sharig on cornet and Rob Miller on oboe, which, just round this whole thing out. And I've always loved this song. Always loved it. And then I was telling you earlier that, I saw quite a few of the shows when they were doing them here in the later years. And every time I'd go to a show, I was looking on that set list thing on the internet, and you would play the night before, and I'd be like, damn, they played Fallen Angel. He ain't going to do it tonight. And sure enough, it was like every time. So the very final show that I saw in 2019, I finally got to see him do Fallen Angel. So it all got in the end. So I got to see it, and I just love this song. Yeah, that's my number 5.
Awesome pick. That one, that's such a cool one to have come out in 1974, because those riffs in there were very kind of metal for the time. And you can absolutely see the influence that that's had on like prog metal now, because you're seeing that riff come out in a lot of bands lately. So that's really cool.
Yep.
I'm so jealous that you got to see them. Oh my God. All right. Well, my next one, you were just saying there about listening to John Wetton kind of hypnotize you with his singing. My next one is Exiles from Lark's Tongues and Aspic. Now, I was thinking I wanted to pick like Lark's Tongues and Aspic Part 2 or something, because I love how unhinged Jamie Moore is, but Exiles is such a beautiful song. My God, absolutely gorgeous. And to kind of put it in the middle of this album as well is a weird move, and I love that. You kind of got a bit of everything with King Crimson. But yeah, it's just such a gorgeous song, and John Wetton's voice, it just takes me somewhere, Adrian Belew is the same, but there was just something with John Wetton. He just sounded angelic. Completely. So yeah, that is my number 5.
Fantastic. All right, then the number 4. It's going to be off the Beat album, and it's a song called Heartbeat. And it's a King Crimson love song. It's an Adrian Belew song, that everybody gets credited for. But it's just beautiful. It's just an absolutely beautiful love song. Ballou did it again a couple years later when he put out a solo album, and he did a solo version of it. And I still like the King Crimson version better than what he did solo with it. It's just a beautiful song, you know. Like I was saying earlier, you know, it could be makeout, you know. Who could imagine, you know, making epic King Crimson music? But you know, everybody has their own thing, you know. So.
Yeah. You'd really have to find a special girl that you could say, "Do you want to make out to King Crimson?"
The times are running out. Time is running out. So.
Oh, you never know. You never know. All right, that's a great pick, Heartbeat. I wasn't expecting that one to come up today, so that's cool. Yeah, good choice. I love how you're going for all the makeout music here. Are you trying to send a message here, Chaz?
I'm just a frustrated old man, you know. What do I know about makeout music, you know?
We can all dream. We can all dream. So any ladies watching here, give them a shout.
At least I have the memories to dream about, you know. So that's all you need, you know.
Oh my god. So my number 4, I am going back to this album, and I had to pull out In the Court of the Crimson King because that's another absolutely mad one to come out with in '69. I absolutely love that song. It's just one of the first King Crimson songs that I really got into. So it kind of holds a special place in my heart. Whenever I hear it, I get this kind of nostalgic feeling of being a kid and hearing it. Yeah, it's just a really great tune. You know, that's all I can say about all these tunes is they're really solid, great songs. And this is no exception. So that is my number 4.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We'll be hearing a little bit more about that here in a couple minutes. My number 3 is again off the Red album. And this one is One More Red Nightmare.
Awesome.
This, you know, any one of these top 3 of mine could be interchangeable at any given moment, you know. So when I did this list, I'm thinking, well, what do I do? You know, I mean, so you have to shoot them in there somewhere. So this one falls in at number 3. But they have this sound. Rupert beating on this cymbal, and there's stories about this cymbal, and he found it in a trash can at the studio. And the way he described it on his channel when I heard him talking about it was, it looked like one of those Bushman hats that the Australians wear, you know, with the one flap down and the one flap up.
Yeah.
It's just a ratty piece of shit of a cymbal. And he pulled it out of the trash can and made it work, you know, and work it does, you know. Yeah. Wet and wrote the lyrics for this as well. This was about some kind of nightmare about flying. And his buddy and the guy that used to play in Supertramp, that Richard Palmer James, used to write a lot of the lyrics back in this era. So it's kind of cool to see a John Wetton lyric for this thing. And the really nice thing about this is they brought back Ian McDonald for this. Yeah. They were going to try to add him back into the band. It's all kind of go into that, but you know, we're not going to go into that. But he was here for this and did just a bang up job playing sax on this thing at the end. It's just wonderful, you know. Yeah. So just this absolutely wonderful song. It's, you know, it's another heavy one, you know, and Red was really a heavy album, you know. So I just loved it, and that's my number 3.
Awesome pick. I love how you're like the two extremes. It's either the real heavy songs or the makeout songs. Cool. All right. So my number 3 comes from Discipline. Now, I was looking at it, and you know, as much as I love the song in Discipline and how insane and mental that is, the one that when I first heard this album, the one that like blew me away, like literally blew my mind, was Tella Hunjinjit. That bass, that fat, dirty bass in this. Oh my God, like absolutely crazy. The story Adrian Belew is telling of meeting this guy in the street, it's just It's completely nuts. I absolutely love this song. It's one of those tunes that gets me real hyped up. I certainly had a neighbour call the cops on me once for playing this song too loud.
That's,
I was shaking with the bass, like, you know. So that's my number 3.
have you ever seen Les Claypool do his version of that with the fabulous?
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely awesome. Love that song. Great pick. Great one. All right, we're getting down there, man. We're down to number 2. And this is going to come off the Discipline album as well, but it's not Dale and Gingy. Would have been weird to cross like that. But this one is Frame by Frame.
Awesome.
And this song here, I remember going and buying Discipline, and there was no advertisement for this. You know, you just had to go start leafing through the records. You know, you go to the record store and you start at A and work your ass on down to Z, and somewhere in the middle there you had K, and I flipped up and saw this red thing, and I'm like, what is this? You know, I didn't know anything about it, and picked it up, and the first song, you know, I like it and everything, but it was this second song that just something about the way that the guitars meld together while they're playing in different time signatures is what they're doing, you know, to make that pulsing. It's hard. Well, you've heard it. You know what I'm talking about. It's hard to articulate what they're doing. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Never heard anything like it. It totally changed my vision of what I wanted to hear. You know, that's what it did for me. So that's why it's at number 2. It could be at number 1. It could be at number 3. You know, these things are very close down here at this end of the list. You know?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I know what you mean about the way those two guitars come together in the song. It's like something that completely alters your brain chemistry. Like you're just, oh, what is going on here? I love it. Yep. I love the way the music does this to us. It's fabulous. All right, so my number 2 is from In the Wake of Poseidon, and it is the title track. You all know on this channel that I absolutely love Mellotron, and this is dripping in Mellotron. Absolutely beautiful song. I don't know, it gives me this kind of sense of despair or something, but in a really beautiful way, if that makes sense at all. Because despair can be so beautiful. Yeah, Greg Lake sounds beautiful on it. It's just a really wonderful song. The subject of it is a little bit kind of sad, but I don't know what it is. The music in the background gives me this kind of hopefulness along with that despair. It's just so hard to describe how I feel about these songs because they're so technically incredible, and the way they were able to put across emotion in them as well was just like nothing else. So that is my number 2.
That's a great one. That is an absolutely great pick. Great one. And my number 1 is going to be almost the same thing, and for the same reason. This comes off of In the Court of the Crimson King, and it is the title track, the last song on the album, In the Court of the Crimson King. And it is washed in Mellotron. It's got harpsichord on there. It's got flute on there. All of those are played by Ian McDonald. Fripp is playing like beautiful and gently, you know. It's just it's kind of a different dynamic. Well, we hadn't known enough about Fripp yet, this being the first album and everything. So you got that horrible, horrendous, well, you know, not horrible, bad word, horrendously brutal riffage on 21st Century Schizoid Man, and then this beautiful piece bookending that album. Yeah. You know? And the drumming that Michael Chaz does is fantastic on this thing. All of them. I mean, everybody is just shining on this song. When I was talking earlier about listening and hearing these songs on the radio, this is the song that was really on my mind, that I'd heard it, and then the DJ didn't say what it was, And then at the end, they didn't say what it was. And then a couple months went by and I heard it again, and I either missed it or, whatever. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that I really, really liked this song. And by the time I finally figured out what it was, I couldn't wait to buy this album, and that's it,
Yeah.
This is where it all started for me. This is the only here in the United States, I can't say all in the United States, but here in the mid-Atlantic region of the United States, this was the only song that ever got played on the radio by King Crimson, to the best of my knowledge. So
that's a great story. I love that.
Glad I heard it when I did, or I might not be on this show right now.
Yeah.
What the hell did Crimson do? Didn't like that.
Yeah. That's awesome, and a great number one. Like, it's just one of those timeless songs. So great choice. Great. My number one, and I'm finally going to pick up, right? My number one is the ever so hypnotic but also chaotic Starless. Absolutely adore that song. It's probably the King Crimson song that I play the most, because something about it, it's so cool. So you were saying earlier about the way they can make that kind of tick-tock noise on the snare, on the edge of the snare. And they do it in this as well. And it's just, as subtle as it is, it has such a huge effect. You're kind of, it's like time kind of ticking away, and you have this kind of repetitive bass line going over and over, and it builds up and then goes into that crazy part, and it's just such a dynamic song. It's so hard to describe how technically incredible these guys were. And I know Robert Fripp was behind it all, and I know he was very strict and wanted everyone perfect, but they all had so much talent that they brought into this band, and it was a bit of a revolving door, but I'm so glad it happened. I really am. So that is my number one, Starless from Raid.
Fantastic. I'm glad you picked it, because it was very difficult one not to pick. Same with 21st Century Schizoid Man. It's like, who doesn't pick that? Well, I got other songs. I mean, I've heard that so much. I love it, but there's other songs here in the canon that are just as effective,
Yeah. Well, you had to make room for your makeup music. All right. Well, there we go. There we have it, folks. That is me and Uncle Chaz's top 10 King Crimson songs. A very tough topic to tackle, but we did it. Chaz, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today, and it's been an absolute honor to finally kind of meet you face to face as much as we can. And you have been good crack, a great guest, and I hope you come on again sometime. That would be awesome.
Anytime you want me on, you just let me know, and I'll be happy to be there for you. It's absolutely tickled to be on with you, and very proud of you, and I just love it. Like I said earlier, just love watching what you've done, and the progression of your show, and the progression of your life as we watch it unfold here, before our very eyes,
Yeah.
You got a lot of people pulling for you, kiddo. So, we're happy to be here on board.
That means a lot to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that more than you know. Like, that's absolutely lovely. Thank you very much.
It's really heartfelt. I know it's backwards, but it is actually hitting my heart, So.
I'll take your word for it. So there we go, folks. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. It really, really helps me along. And if you want to join me on In the Hot Seat, have a look in the description below, and I'll leave my email there, and you can reach out to me and we'll talk about something. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.